Hey, welcome back, everyone. Lab 14, looking at amphibians, reptilia, and aves, or the birds. So, okay, amphibians, reptiles, and birds. So first, we're going to look at the broader group, tetrapodas, things with four legs. We've made a solid transition onto land now, so we had to have eyelids, right? Apomorphism, not everything. Function in preventing the cornea from drying out. The eyes evolved underwater. They work great. However, when you are no longer in an aquatic environment, eyeballs drying would be a very bad thing. We've evolved a stapes, which helps transmit sound vibrations, beginnings of a nice auditory system. Atlas allows greater range of motion in the skull, and four legs with 5 digits on each limb, which allows for motility on land. You'll see there's an exception to that, which there always is when we get to the Anoras. We've got amphibia, right? So these are going to be your amphibians. It's going to include the gymnophionas, the caudatas, and the Anoras. So Sicilians are the example of the gymnophionas. These weird looking little things, look at them in a second. Salamanders are the example of the caudatas, and then frogs are Anoras. So they're going to share a reduction in the number of digits in the front limbs to 4. So they're going to have 5 digits on their back legs, 4 digits on their front legs, front limbs, and they have poison glands. The gymnophiona, right, commonly referred to as Sicilians. You'll see the name apoda in your manual, but it's an outdated term. Gymnophiona. And then Sicilians is what this little thing is called here. They are apomorphes, are going to have loss of limbs and girdles. They have 2 rows of teeth and a tentacle sense organ at the mouth. They look like earthworms, but they are not. They're definitely vertebrates with proper bones. They are amphibians, right? So they are not snakes. They are not legless lizards. They are amphibians. They are the gymnophiona, specifically the Sicilians. The caudatas are going to be your salamanders. Ways to identify them easily: long and slender body with limbs of equal length. Okay. So if you're looking at their limbs, all right, that's going to be in comparison to the Anoras. All right, so the caudata and the Anora are sister taxa due to their loss of bony scales. They've just got that smooth skin. It's not slimy. It's smooth. It just happens to be sometimes with mucus, sometimes not. But smooth skin, right? No bony scales. But the salamanders, their limbs are of equal length, and we're going to compare that. Next, we'll look at the Anora. That's going to be your frogs and toads. They all lack a tail as an adult. Right? Salamanders have tails, but more importantly, tadpoles, right? The beginning life stages of your frogs, the Anoras, right? They start life as a little swimming thing, nice long tail. Tadpole stages, tail is lost as an adult. Skeletal modifications, right? So this is for their adaptations for their jumping lifestyle. Frogs are jumpers. So how do you do that? Well, they got a fusion of bones. So their tibia and fibula have been fused together. Same thing with the radius and the ulna, right? So the tibia fibula in humans, for example, tibia is that big shin bone, and the fibula is this much smaller, thinner, flexible one that's behind there. And then your radius and your ulna are your wrist bones. I was actually pointing to my leg, but you guys can't see that. So the radius and the ulna, right? That's going to be the 2 bones that make up your forearm. Right? And in the frogs, those have been fused into one bone, right? And the legs been fused into one bone. Distinguishing between the Anoras and the caudatas, right? Hind limbs are longer than forelimbs, and they have this elongation of the tarsal bone. So their hind limbs gotta have all that power for jumping. They're much longer hind limbs than forelimbs. Salamanders, all the limbs are equal length. The Anoras, no tail as adult. Salamanders, tails. All right, so as we're going to look at the frog skeleton, you'll see what those modifications we're talking about. We've got the radio ulna going on here. Right, so that's that fusion of the radius and the ulna. And then we've also got this fused tibiofibula going on here. Nice. Okay, we've got and then all the other little bits and pieces, but you can see much, much different length. There's your forelimbs, all right? Compare that to your hind limbs, boom, boom, wah, all right? Massively different in size. Notice also 4 digits. 1, 2, 3, 4 digits on the front limbs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits on the hind limbs. Everything else, they're all, reptiles and whatever. 4 digits on their front limbs. Most everything else is going to have 5. We've got a frog dissection. Not anymore. We used to have a prosected frog because dissecting frogs is nasty. There's going to be a nice video posted online for you guys to watch the bullfrog dissection. But the important things you want to look at are going to be visible in this photo here. Okay, got these fat bodies, right, as opposed to things like us that the adipose tissue is kind of layered on top. They just have them stored in these separate little fat body things. Anyway, you're just going to want to know where things are at. Big old liver, stomach, all that fun stuff. And for this class, this is an artificial blue. Okay, you can't see that. There we go. So this blue stuff, right? That's a lot of times these dissection-ready frogs. The different arterial systems have been injected with dyes, so you can tell between the venous and arterial structures. So that blue versus red is not natural. Next, we're going to be looking at the amniotas. All right, the amniota is going to be including your mammalians, so mammals and reptiles. Apomorphies that unite the amniotas is the amniote egg. Okay, the use of internal fertilization, and we've got alpha or that hard keratin. They give the example of the like claws. All right. So internal fertilization is now a thing in this from this point forward. Before, like your frogs and salamanders, they lay eggs, and then external fertilization happens. Eggs go down, sperm gets dumped on top of them. Right? Now everything's going to be happening inside. So what is the amniote egg, you ask? Thank you for asking. Well, this is the amniote egg. Right? You're going to have a shell, which has a protective outer layer. Got to keep it protected from the environment, because if it's not sitting in water like a frog egg would, you got to have some way to keep it from just desiccating out. Chorion is going to be a protective inner membrane. Right, it's going on there. The amnion is going to be surrounds the embryo with fluid. Going on. Can't see that. Dang it. Okay. So, all that stuff's going on in here. The allantois is a sac used for metabolic storage. Sac used for storage of metabolic waste. Right. That's that little bit going on there. And then a yolk. Right. Supplies the nutrients for a growing embryo. Now, what is reptilius? Well, the reptiles includes turtles, lizards, snakes, dinosaurs, and birds. Yes, birds. Okay? They release uric acid in order to remove the nitrogenous waste, and they have scales with beta carotene. Why is that important? Well, so the uric acid, if you've ever had your car or whatever, if you've ever seen bird droppings, it's got that white powdery substance. Uric acid is a solid. So when their nitrogenous, when their waste systems are processing all this nitrogenous waste, like us, it's kept in liquid form, and we have to excrete all that out in, urine, right? You urinate to get rid of all that stuff. What their systems do is they convert it into uric acid, and it precipitates out, leaving water, which their body can then reabsorb, and then the solid uric acid, which is the white bit, the white bird poop, all right? So much more concentrated though, which is why, my particular area of research, I'm working on keeping chicken manure, making it less toxic, because it's bird waste, and bird droppings are much more concentrated with that ammonia, that uric acid, that nitrogen concentration, compared to, say, cows or pigs or something. But it's really an efficient way to conserve water, right? Which is why a lot of reptiles do very well out in the deserts, low water environments. You also see them in the marine environment. But anyway, and then their scales have the beta keratin, which is much softer compared to like the hard alpha keratin, and that's why they give the example of claws versus beta keratin scales. So your manual refers to the testudines as chelonia. Right? That's, again, it's an old defunct term. Testudines, that's going to be your tortoises, your turtles and your tortoises. Right? So they say the taxonomic placement of testudines is questionable. We'll just leave it at that. What you want to be able to identify, though, definitively is that their shell, right? It's a bone overlaid by epidermal scutes, right? That's what these are here. Those are the epidermal scutes over a bony shell. Turtles may be a sister taxon to the sauras, which includes the Leptosaurus and the Archaeosaurus. That's why we said placement is questionable. But do you need to know the apomorphy? So like the shell, bone overlaid with epidermal scutes. Saurians are capable of facultative bipedality, able to walk and run on 2 legs. Don't worry about that so much. All right, what are we looking at then? The Leptosaurus, right? That's going to be the only, it's debatable, and that's the only genus still alive. There should be 2 species, but so Cephalodon, all right? The common name for this is the Tartua. It's a lizard-like creature that lives in New Zealand, right? But it's not, it's definitely its own thing. And then we got the squamates. It's going to be your lizards and snakes. Squamates, they lack a penis, so to have internal fertilization, they do what's referred to as cloacal kiss for fertilization. And they have this thing of tail autonomy, which is the ability to lose the tail. The manual is incorrect when it says it's the ability to grow a tail back. Tail autonomy is actually the ability to lose a tail, right? So if you're being chased by a predator and boom, grabs onto your nice big fat tail to hold onto you, it breaks at a predetermined cleave plane, right, without bleeding to death. Normally, if you were to lose a major body part like a tail, chance you're going to bleed out. Not for these things. They got, boom, it breaks on a cleave plane, and then hopefully you should be able to regrow back. Interesting thing, though, is when they regrow their tail, it's going to lack vertebrae. But the important thing is that this tail autonomy is the ability to lose the tail. So looking further into the squamatas, right, that's going to be your lizards and snakes. They have what is called a paired hemipene in the males. So they don't have proper penis, but they got this hemipene, which when you see the video is just bizarre, right? But what you also want to focus on is this enlarged Jacobson's organ, right, which is allowed for an acute sense of smell. So if you ever see like lizards and snakes with their tongue, flicking their tongue out and then bringing it back in, they're so they can smell, but there's this collecting more chemicals from the air and putting it into this Jacobson organ, so it's just enhancing what they can already smell. There's a lot. Pause for a second. Anyway, don't pause. If some of them also, like the pit vipers, can also quote unquote see in infrared, so they can have these pits that allow them to detect heat. So the best way they've got thermal vision, which is just mind-blowing. The Dr. Clark's lab, so the Clark lab here on campus, they're doing a lot of work with the pit vipers, and some of the research coming out of there is to how refined and how well this thermal vision ties into their actual visual systems and how their world view is just amazing. If you get a chance during the next student research symposium, look at some of the stuff that's coming out of their lab, or just look up some of the papers that have been published. It's super cool. Moving on there, we've got the Archaeosaurus, right? So this is going to include crocodiles, dinosaurs, and aves, right? Aves, aves, whatever you want to call them, the birds, right? So this is all classified as to one group. They have a 4-chambered heart, and both their atrium and ventricle have been divided. Another thing is they're going to display nest building and parental care skills, right? Believe it or not, crocodiles are wonderful mothers, right? They've got some of the most powerful jaws on the planet, and yet they can pick up these baby crocodiles and carefully move them around. It's pretty cool, right? So crocodilia is going to include crocodiles and alligators. They have adaptations for an aquatic lifestyle. What are those? Well, they've got these conical homodont teeth, which is a key thing of these, features of being a fish eater. So what that means is that even though they've got, if you look at a crocodile jaw, which wish you guys were in the lab, all their teeth, homodont teeth means that there's different sizes, but they're all the same shape, right? So they're all going to be this cone, varying sizes, but that's very indicative of a fish-eating lifestyle. Their tail has been laterally compressed for swimming. Their feet are webbed, and the nostrils are placed on top of the head for allowing crocodile to remain submerged. Right? So that's why you can, they are 95% submerged, and all it's really poking above the waterline is going to be their eyes and their nostrils, which is, if you're going to be just the stealth ambush hunter, you want to be floating out there. You just want to look like a bit of a bump on a log. But that bump will kill you because they can be really aggressive. But they're awesome. And if there's any doubt that dinosaurs are birds, this right here is a baby blue heron, right? When it's lacking all of its big adult fluffy feathers and stuff, tell me that doesn't look like a dinosaur, right? Look at this. That is a little dinosaur. So dinosaurs were broken into when we're doing the avian and non-avian. Avian dinosaurs are the ones whose lineages eventually led to what we call as modern birds. So, yeah. Birds are dinosaurs. How cool is that? So the 80s, right, birds are believed to evolve from a dinosaur called a Coelurosaur. They've got this strong furculum, right, which is this fusion of clavicles. Key thing I want you to remember from this is they got this keeled sternum, right, which is for muscle attachment. So, I'll go more than a second. They got hollow bones, right? If you're going to be doing flying, it's not good to have these big, thick, dense bones. You want to have nice, light, fluffy bones, right? Got a semilunate carpal, allowing for the movement of the wrist to go from side to side, and later it's been co-opted for the wing, in the wing for flight. So, keeled sternum, okay? You'll really see it next week if you guys were in the lab. We got you can see a bear skull. Anyway, when you're looking at bones of anything, you're going to see things called keels and processes and lumps and stuff. As long as it's not a tumor, if it's smooth, right, not a lot of place for muscle attachment. Compare that to something that's got a keel, right, a projection, that is the most, that allows for a large amount of muscle attachment. So if you're looking at something like a chicken, right, or just a chicken skeleton there for you to look at. So if you look at a human sternum, right, our breastbone is pretty much smooth, right? There's no projections coming out. But a bird sternum, right, it's got this keel coming out the front. It's got a projection sticking at 90-degree angle right out in the middle of it. And that's for a large attachment for flight muscles, right? So like if you're looking at a chicken or turkey, whatever, which most people are probably the most familiar, dead bird, right? So if you're carving it up, you've got to work around that, got the left and the right side, the breast muscle, and those are the chest muscles that would be used for flight. And that big thing that you're carving down, right? You're carving a turkey, that is that keeled sternum. And you'd really see it next week when you look at like a bear skull versus a dog skull, right? Just the bears have this massive keel going down the sagittal crest for massively powerful jaws. Ancestral humans had them, right? That's how we know that the big, massive teeth for grinding up stuff and attachment for jaw muscles. Moving on. Feathers. Okay, feathers are super cool. Feathers represent this key adaptation for flight. We believe that the original function is to provide insulation for endothermic animals. And then the rachis is the center axis of a feather, not super visible on these ornamental decorative feathers, but you'll see those in a second. Right, they've got branching structures, large to small as veins, barbs, barbules, and hooks. Once you can put these feathers under a dissecting scope, it's like natural Velcro. It is really cool. All right, so to get more on that, we're going to look at feathers by type. So you've got display feathers, all right, which are completely useless except to say, look how strong and beautiful I am. So think of a peacock. A male peacock is, male peafowl. They're peacocks and peahens, but they're peafowls. So the peacock, it's got this massive plumage of a tail, right? That is not useful in anything other than attracting a mate, right? It is energetically very expensive to maintain, right? Those, they have to grow and build all those feathers. It makes them makes them much easier to catch. If you've got, a 6-foot tail coming off of you, if you're a predator, something to grab onto, right? So a lot of times a lot of birds will dump these decorative or display feathers outside of mating season. Some do, some don't, but it's not uncommon for them to dump them because they're just energetically expensive and can be a liability. But The bigger and brighter your plumage is, says, hey, look how strong I am, mate with me. We've also got flight feathers. All right, these are, as the name implies, gives the bird's ability to fly. So where you can really identify some of the flight feathers, if you guys think back to, I can't remember which physics class it was, but Bernoulli's principle. You've got a curved surface, like a half circle, the stuff, air moving over the top is different speed than stuff going under the bottom, and it generates lift. Well, flight feathers are going to be asymmetrical, so you got this rachis going down the middle, right? Rachis, whatever you want to call it. Sorry, I can't see that. Rachis going down the middle, right? And it's asymmetrical, so one side is going to be bigger than the other, and that's just allows for generation of lift. These have to be from a golden eagle. And then you've got insulation and down feathers, right? So these ones are super useful, not good for flying, but they provide excellent insulation. So if you ever get the chance, like a goose down jacket or a goose down sleeping bag, that's what you're going to take if you go sleeping at the South Pole, right? Stuff is amazing for insulation because it's fluffy and it traps a lot of air in there. And then if you got other feathers on top of it, nice insulation layer. But that's also why it's incredibly dangerous when seabirds, when there's oil slicks and oil spills, because the oil mats up these feathers and all of a sudden allows that ocean water, which is very, very cold, through this protective layer of feathers, and you get damage. And you can, it freeze to death and drown because they lose all the protection that their feathers give them. Fun fact, the flight feathers on wild turkeys, you need a special shotgun load if you're going turkey hunting because they can basically repel small caliber shotgun rounds. So that's why you need a special turkey load to punch through the feathers of a turkey because they are super strong. Moving on. So feather diagram, talking about this thing, and we got this rachis going down the middle. All right, boom, rachis going down the middle. Vane, right? That's just the big branching up there, right? You've got, and then all the way down to these little hooks. All right, so it's zoomed in, zoomed in, zoomed in, and it's basically going to be at the very smallest level. Most prominent is going to be on these flight feathers. They're like little, it's Velcro, man. It's just these little interlocking hooks, and then they lock together, and then the big ones lock together, and then you've got these nice, strong feathers that are going to allow a bird to fly. Speaking of flying, remember back to those hollow, they've got these keeled sternum for butt muscle attachment, but they've got those hollow bones. If you've ever had the ability or the chance to hold a bird, even a massive bird does not weigh very much. Let me phrase that. Massive flying birds do not weigh very much. It's like if you can have like an eagle or an owl, the equivalent size in mammal would be 30 or 40 pounds, and birds just aren't. Right? They're like 6 or 7 pounds for something that size because their bones are hollow and a lot of them is made up of feathers, and feathers are quite light, and so there's a lot of fluff involved. But it's feathers. Birds are very light. So apomorphies for flight. Sorry, for the aves, which classifies anything. Okay, this is the Archaeopteryx lithographia, right? That is a very famous fossil. This is what we are defining. We're saying this particular fossilized organism is the first bird, right? But now we're going to see for powered flight, right, apomorphies for the birds, shortened tails, right? They got fused vertebrae now. They have lost their teeth. They got their tail's been shortened into this pygostyle. And the earliest known true bird is the Archaeopteryx lithographica. Even though it has none of those features, we're calling this powered because it has powered flight and proper feathers that we can distinctly see in the fossil record. We actually got a replica of the fossil in the lab, which if you just Google Archaeopteryx lithograph fossil, you'll see it's very, very famous. But powered, feathered flight, and so we're calling this the first true bird, Archaeopteryx. Now, we can also look at beak types, indicating what feeding habits the birds have. So remember Darwin's finches, which technically weren't finches, but we're not going to get into that. The shape of the bill is going to help determine what type of diet it has and what's specifically, it can be a seed cracker, but is it going to be going after big seeds or little seeds? And the different beak shapes of the birds in these islands on South America helped Darwin collect his notes to kind of formulate his theory of evolution and natural selection. But you got things like generalists, all right, you got grain eaters, you've got seed eaters, probing, things that are going for filter feeding, like you're skimming water surfaces. But you got like raptors, right? Like eagles and vultures, things that are going to be meat eating. You got this beak for ripping and tearing. You got woodpeckers, right? Chiseling away at stuff. You got like nectar feeding things. It's just very, very different, right? And the beak shape is going to be determinant of how you live. So, if you are interested in being a UTA, contact myself and or Dr. Eckdale. Typically, people who have a B+ or better for their final grade will be recommended. If you have an A, if you have an A, I'm definitely going to be automatically recommending you for it. He'll be contacting you sometime before the beginning of the next semester. However, as long as you've passed the class and you show a keen interest in it, ask me, right? Maybe you were having an off semester, you got to see, but as long as you pass the class and you're like, hey, I want to do this, let me know, right? You can get 1 credit of $2.99. So if you need 1 credit to fill up your semester for next semester, fill up your schedule for next semester, never hurts. Typically, you'd be required to give 1 lecture, assuming, now this is all on the assumption that we have class moving forward like we're supposed to, and that this whole pandemic has played itself out. I've not heard otherwise, so until I hear otherwise, we're going to assume that next semester is a go like it's supposed to. Your virtual field trip, right? The instruction's been up for more than a week now. It's due May 7th by 5 p.m. I'm going to have to make that a hard deadline because I have to get everything graded and grades submitted in a certain amount of time. And so please get that to me before that time, right? Make sure you read the instructions. If you have any questions, please email me, right? Make sure you include the URL for each of the webcam that you're observing. Again, the webcams that are listed in the instructions are suggestions that I know work. However, if you can find a better one, like one of those links on that instructions, there's like 80 webcams that you can go to from there, right? As long as it's not a domestic animal, like a farm or a dog, right? It's from a reputable, it's from some sort of aquarium or zoo or research institute or something that, you can identify what you're looking at. Cool, all right? Pick what you want. Make sure it's, follow the instructions. Please do your best to identify the genus and species that you're observing. Keep in mind, if the webcam doesn't say this is, genus and species, but it gives the common name, if you can find the common name, then you should easily be able to identify the genus and species that you're looking at, or at least the genus. So don't just tell me this is a nice blue shark, right? Tell me exactly what type, if you can know it's a blue shark, then you can look up what genus and species it is. So keep that in mind. This is replacing normally we do the Birch Aquarium, the zoo field trip, and the final for Lab 7. This is going to be replacing all of those. So that's where these 35 points are coming from. So do your best on this. And for the bonus or the extra credit assignment, hint, hint, if you had a chance to get out and see the bioluminescent waves, that would be a good thing to talk about because it is local and you may or may not be able to get pictures of it, but it's local, it's happening, and it is spectacular. If not, again, follow the instructions for that. Extra credit, email it to me for the extra credit. Whereas the virtual field trip, the Turnitin assignment is live and it's up. So submit those whenever you can. Make sure you've got the URL and the genus and species for what you're looking at. So, all right, thank you very much. And that's the end of the Lab 14 lecture. Make sure you watch the lab activities walkthrough, which will be posted most likely again late. But when it's up, make sure you get the write-up taken care of. All right, take care and stay safe, everybody.